Welcome to Echo, the podcast where we share our personal perspectives on questions about God, spirituality, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm Ryan Becker, your host. No matter who you are, we hope that you find value and encouragement through real discussions about real things. Let's jump in. Echo.
This episode of the Echo Podcast is sponsored by Southern Adventist University.
Welcome to Echo, the podcast where we talk about life and faith issues that young adults and really people in general are facing. I'm Ryan Becker, your host, and today I am joined by two wonderful human beings who I greatly respect and I'm very grateful for in my own life, and that is Tim and Kim Cove. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll start with Kim.
I am Kim Cove. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been married to this man for 31 years.
31.
Next Wednesday.
Ooh, awesome. And obviously that's next Wednesday, but before people are listening to this, so it's already passed by the time this episode comes out.
We did have a nice time celebrating.
It'd be really funny if like a Wednesday after this episode airs, you guys start getting calls from people. Oh, it's your anniversary. Happy anniversary. No, that's already passed. You're late.
Yes.
Tim, what about you?
I'm Tim. I'm a pastor. I've been pastoring for about 12 years. Before that, I was a teacher for 20 years. But I've always been interested in doing something to help people have a better life.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So I'm thrilled for this episode. This whole season as a whole, we've talked about some, we're talking about some great things, but this one is a unique opportunity because I'm sitting down with a married couple who's been both in and out of ministry together when you were teaching, which teaching is its own ministry, let's be real. But, paid professional pastoral ministry And really what I want to do, first, I want to get to know you, I want us to be able to get to know you a bit as a couple. And so I do want to ask, what's the story? How did you guys, let's have a little bit of romantic comedy in here.
It's a story. Let me just tell you. I was teaching at a school in a big church and was single. And one Sabbath, I looked out on the congregation, and one face kind of stood out, if you know what I mean.
Oh, was there a mirror there? You saw yourself?
No, it wasn't me.
That good-looking man? No.
No. It was this pretty little blonde thing about 3/4 of the way back. And I was actually leading the choir at the front of my elementary school kids. And so when I turned around after the choir was all done and we all sat down, I looked out and scanned the audience, and there she was. And I'm like, who's that?
Nice. And then and she's like, I didn't even.
Oh, no. I'd been wanting to meet him for about, I think the first time I saw you was in November.
Yeah, she'd been scoping me out.
And I was like, I
wonder
wonder who that is. Who's that guy over there? And then on that Sabbath, I normally had attended a different church, and that Sabbath I chose to go to the church where he was. And
this is so adorable.
Oh no!
It gets better.
It gets better. So my parents had a skating rink in their backyard, and part of my purpose was to invite the new teacher, which was Tim, to come to our skating rink party that we were going to have in February. So that was my in.
Yes.
I also knew that he had graduated from AUC with no debt. And I was in between. I had just come home from Newbold College, and I wanted to go to Southern. Imagine that. And so I was going to talk to him about how he did that. So those were my two conversation starters.
So I dismissed my kids after the choir from the back of the church. We're literally behind the baptistry in like a little choir hall. And the kids are going, and I turn around, and there she is. I'm like, whoa, that was, I felt like I had some kind of power, Star Wars, moving the Force to bring her to me.
Wow.
And we ended up talking, and she mentioned about school and stuff and the party, and it's like, well, I don't really want to encourage her to go to Southern. That's a long ways away. How many hours did we spend with each other that weekend?
We went sliding,
then we went skating.
Because it was winter time.
Then we tried to go.
We tried to go skiing the next day. He came out to my house. We lived in the country, and we went skiing we tried to go skiing, but we ended up talking like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Constantly.
It was just
constant conversation.
And the thing is, I had been engaged, and I was so over women.
Yeah.
I was not interested, that I was just brutally, blatantly myself, which I wasn't in my previous relationship.
Ah,
Yeah.
Okay.
there's a lot of profound stuff right there.
So as I'm getting to know her and asking her questions about who she is and what's important to her and her beliefs, her philosophy of life, it scared me to the point where I would get up off the couch and go and sit way across the room because I was hearing coming out of her mouth the things that pulsed in my heart.
Wow, man.
We're not done yet. The story
No,
is
I know, but you made the first move.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I made the
yeah.
I chose courage over comfort.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, really. So, all right. So yeah, let's keep going.
So through the course of that conversation, anyway, Monday, I went to work on Monday, and Tim had invited me over for supper that Monday night to his apartment, and so I went to his. We had supper together. We had more conversation. He fed me spaghetti and a wedge of cabbage. We now have a joke about cabbage in our home.
Yes.
And then
So romantic, Tim.
Yes, I know. It was...
I left his apartment around 9 o'clock at night, drove in a, coming on snowstorm to my house in the country where I lived with my mom and her husband. And when I got home, he said to call him to make sure so he would know that I got home safe. I hung up the phone. I looked at my mother and I said, I just met the man I'm going to marry. And we were married 6 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. This is so cool. Thank you for
From
sharing.
these humble beginnings.
Yeah.
I just have to tell you, though, that our relationship has been so growing and nurturing, and we're closer today, happier today than we ever have been. I mean, it's just been constant growth.
And it's and growth does come with adversity and things. So it's not like you're saying that everything was just perfect from the get-go.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
I mean, mine will be perfect when I get married, but that's
When
because
it
I'll
is,
be in the marriage.
You'll
so
be
that's
95 and
I'm
looking
kidding.
for a woman.
I'll give you my number
I
for
will be
your wife.
Exactly. She'll need some therapy. No, so will I. I need it now. No, this is great. So the reason I want to talk about this is, or the reason I asked that is, there are, when it comes to pastoral families, everything in the pastoral ministry gets focused and filtered through the lens of the pastor and through the job of the pastor, which is funny because we don't do that to like plumbers or like lawyers or whatever. It's we do it with big celebrities, though. I will say we tend to do it with the president or that kind of thing. So you're the pastor's wife sort of deal, right? And that's so what I want to do is I want to speak a little bit to that reality today, because it's not necessarily a good reality, and I want to give the three of us. I've been in pastoral ministry, but I've also been a principal's kid in an Adventist school where very much the expectations are similar, not the same, but similar to like a pastor's kid, for example. So what has been some of the wonderful thing about doing life together in the realm of pastoral ministry and church stuff from the perspective you're in? What are some highlights or good things?
I love working together. I love the fact that I can come home and talk to my marriage and family therapist wife about what's going on. And I get such wisdom from this. Not only do I get a therapist's perspective, I get a woman's perspective. And there have been many times I'll come home ready to race left, and we'll have a conversation, and I'm like, whoa, would that ever have been a mistake? And so, honestly, she's at least 60% of my ministry.
Wow. She's... Oh.
Am I glowing yet?
Yes. And you are allowed to glow.
Thank you.
Oh, I love this. I mean, you two are matching. Come on.
Yes.
This is the most adorable thing ever. Okay. So, and what are some of the false expectations and misconceptions that that you've had placed on you by churches or church members? What are some of the things that are like, no, that's not? Yeah.
Go ahead, Kim.
I'm
How many
thinking,
times have you been asked to play the piano?
Oh, yeah. Which I can play like 2 fingers. Yeah, you're putting me on the spot here.
Well,
You're going to
I'm
have
just
to think.
thinking of all the things that the church expects my wife to do. Women's ministries.
Yeah.
Deaconess.
Deaconess.
Dorcas.
Ugh,
Deaconess.
I am not a deaconess.
Plan the wedding showers. Plan the children's stuff. Be in charge of potluck. Sing. Play the piano. Work in the children's divisions. Oh, we need a cradle roll director. Oh, Kim will do it. Oh, we need a primary director. Kim will do it. She's expected to be all the fill-in spots that aren't filled up by the church.
And it's interesting that they're all traditional roles. They're all pigeonholed roles too.
Pigeonhole roles, and to top that off, she's expected to do it gratis. She's a marriage and family therapist, right? So the church expects her to marriage and family therapize them for free. This is her job. This is her career. So it's almost like she doesn't have any value. They hire me to be the pastor of the church, and they get 2 for 1. That's their mindset.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. And does this? Would you say that this kind of thing extends to the kids as well? I know, almost a dumb question.
Yeah. My daughter, she can teach Sabbath school. The little kids, cradle roll. And, my son, Jared, well, we'll find a place for him. Maybe he could be a deacon. He can clean up after. I mean, pastor's family's going to be there anyway. He might as well be working.
Yeah. Well, and so what about even like behavioral or lifestyle expectations too? Do they expect you not just to do certain things in the church, but to your family to look a specific way or act a specific way? Are there expectations there that you have had to wrestle with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's been hard on my family, hard on my kids.
Very hard, on our son especially.
The pressure to be the model. It's something that he took on, my son. It's a wonderful thing. Dad's pastor, I'm going to be the model son. And when his whole life didn't measure up, it became an incredible cut on him. The pressure, I just think it really injured him.
Yeah, I mean, you're given this impossible expectation that if you live up to it, you're doomed because you're not you. You're not allowed to be you.
Here's another aspect of it. Not only are you given the expectation, you are constantly being attaboyed, attagirled when you move toward that expectation.
Yeah.
And it creates a sense that I'm important and valuable because of what I do or how I perform, rather than me as a person. If I could plead with churches when it concerning kids, get to know the kids for who they are. Just pretend that they have nothing to do with the pastor, and get them to know them, what their hobbies, what their interests are, what they like to do. Be a friend, not a taker or a giver. Just be with them.
I think it's hard too because they're not allowed to struggle. I'm not allowed to struggle. Sometimes struggling is okay for Tim because he can use it in a sermon, and so that it kind of makes him real, which is good. And I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm not allowed to struggle, and the kids are not allowed, and they're certainly not allowed to ask questions about who God is and is He real, and that's just not okay for pastors' kids.
No, because then it reflects on the pastor. Well, what are you teaching them, and what are you?
Right.
I mean, you see it even if a pastor doesn't choose to send their kid to an Adventist school specifically, or to a university, whatever. And it's like, at some point, my kid also gets to choose their life and their path.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah, right. Imagine that. And no, someone's independent decisions, especially as they grow up and take ownership of their life, do not always reflect their parents or their family. It is their decision. And just because they chose what you didn't expect them to doesn't mean it's the wrong choice.
Exactly.
Right.
When they make mistakes, though, they're not given the opportunity to get what God gives to all of us. It's held over them.
Yeah. Man, that is so. It's interesting to see how this tone, the tone of this whole conversation has shifted.
Yeah.
Because there's beauty in the family. There's life and joy in the story that you've told. But then as we talk about the interaction and integration within the greater church family, because of the way that we've systemized the pastoral role, now we see that, yes, it's great to be a part of the community. And there's a reason that, even as we talk about this, you're still a pastor and, you're still in ministry together. But there's still pain and hurt and baggage because of all of the experiences that come with the high expectations and of the systemized pastor and the institutionalized pastor. And one of the things that has annoyed me the most is, and you brought this up when you said get to know the kid aside from the pastor, is the entire family gets filtered through the role of and the lens of the pastor. And so it's almost like your identity becomes only in relation to Tim. And so in the same way that your kids don't get valued and known for who they are, it's the pastor's wife or the pastor's husband who isn't valued for who they are as well. And so what are things that you wish that members knew? What are things that you wish you could tell church members to just like, if you could do anything to help us and to love us, what would you say to them and what would you tell them?
Have you got a list? I've got a list.
Well, one, do not text after 9 o'clock at night.
Do not.
Or call, unless,
If it's an
somebody's
emergency,
bleeding.
if someone's in the hospital, but
Let's
after
call
9
911
o'clock,
first.
No, they call the pastor first.
He'll call 911. He'll know what to do.
My poor wife has often been the other woman because I get so owned by the church that the message to her is that I don't have time for her. I mean, literally at potluck sometimes, Kim will be sitting beside me and I'll have a lineup of 5 or 6 people deep wanting to talk to me about critically important things. And I want to sit and say something to Kim, but eventually she just fades, goes, because on Sabbath, I belong to the church. So if I could just tell the church members, put some value on this relationship. It's our day of church too. It's our potluck time too. And just know that she's my priority. If the church could just know she's my priority and respect that.
Yeah.
What would that look like? That would look like when the phone rings and I answer it and it's my wife. I don't answer other people, but I always answer if it's Kim, no matter what's going on. If I'm in the middle of a Bible study, if she called me during a sermon, I would pick it up if it was her, because she's that priority in my life. If they would understand and not resent that.
Yeah. It's almost like your pastoral role is a job. It is not who you are, and it's not who your family is. And there is more to life, and in the same way that they would be mad if you were calling them at midnight to talk about church stuff. You have every right to be bothered and upset when that happens to you over something that's non-essential. And it's not. I do want to clarify as we continue this that we're not saying that church members are always only disrespectful.
Oh no.
Yeah, see, and I don't want anyone to walk away with that, and I don't hear you saying.
And
that
I
at
am
all.
there to interact with the people.
Absolutely.
That's what Sabbath for me is
Yeah.
for. It's ministry, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's a balance, and it is a balance, and to be cognizant of it. It's this thing where, each one of those 5 to 8 people in line to talk to you, they only see they think I'm only going to take a minute or two.
And they don't.
They don't think, well, yeah, they never do. They never do only take a minute. But then they also don't think about the other 4 to 7 people in the line that are also going to take longer than a minute or two.
Right.
And there are people who see the line and say, I'll talk to you later. And they do. And that, for a pastor, and I think any stress the pastor feels is seeped into the family. But when I am in such demand at the church, I can't be a husband. And so I often feel pulled
Yeah.
between the two. And I need a little slack. Now, the church that I'm pastoring right now, fantastic. How they actually tell me, go take some time. Go be, in fact, this, for our anniversary, we're going to the aquarium in Atlanta. And the church is like, yes, they're cheering me on, which is what we need churches to do. Again, if I could sum it up, I'd say, take care of your pastor.
Yeah.
Listen, if you take care of your car, you'll go twice as far and you'll pay less in repairs, right? Take care of your pastor. You'll go through half as many, and they will have joy in ministry, and they'll be better pastors because of it.
Now, that's an incredible answer, and thank you for the vulnerability that both of you have shared so far. It's been really powerful. I do want to ask this to you, Tim, because this is something specific from your end too. Everything is always asked on how the pastor's wife interacts with the pastor. What are the things that you wish that the church and even you as a husband could do to support Kim in her life? She's got a career and she's a human being and she's sitting right here in front of us, right? Like this isn't, how do we better value the family for the family? What are the steps we take, or what are the things that you wish would happen?
Can I call a friend?
Yeah.
Kim, tell me, where is it that you need nurturing? See, I guess the answer is to nurture her, to let her be, to just love her. A note that just says, hey, we love you, we're praying for you.
Yeah.
Be a little less intrusive. Just let her be who she is.
Yeah. And the reason I do ask Tim that specifically is not because you don't have a voice and can speak for yourself, but it's because there are some people that only hear the words of the pastor, and getting that straight from the horse's mouth for some people is just that important.
The best thing you could do for me would be to love my wife and children. Church, love my wife and kids. Sit down, get to know their middle names, talk about watercolor painting. Okay?
Or Play-Doh. That's
Or
an
Play-Doh.
inside, that's an inside joke.
You know, don't ask her where she's been. Don't ask her, the detail. Just be a friend. In a church, a pastor's family is incredibly lonely. A pastor is incredibly lonely. I mean, we just can't be close buddy friends with our members.
Yeah, there's always a boundary. It's always going to be there.
That has to be there.
Yeah.
And that boundary is extended to our families, because there's some that have to be just for safety, but our families are kind of, they're just going to move in 3 years, so they don't really matter. There's no heart-to-heart communication. There's no honest, open communication.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for I agree wholeheartedly with all of this. And as someone who has thought about, I am not married. That's no secret to anyone who listens to this podcast or knows me, because I say it all the time.
Is this self-promotion?
It is. Store hours are. No. The reason I say that is one of the fears that I always had was, how do I protect? And it's sad that was the thought. If I get married, how do I protect my family?
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to think I have to protect my family from the people of God.
Yeah.
But that was a mindset I had, and I lost girlfriends because I was in ministry.
Yeah.
That didn't want any part of the lifestyle and the expectations. Like, I am lonely because of the expectations and perceived expectations that people have had over what being married to someone in ministry would look like. And there's a lot more than that, and I'm not putting that totally on culture too. That is on us in the relationship, both me in communication and the other in waiting to learn and grow alongside and navigate together. But it was a reality for me. So hearing this is something that's actually very encouraging to me. But I do want to, offer the floor. Kim, do you want to add anything here? Is there something that you wish people would know? Is there that what you wish you could say to people? Because now you can say it.
This is really a calling for us as the spouse of a pastor. And it's very sacred. And we see that. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
Wow.
Izzy, what you don't know is when she was, 5, 6, she felt called to being a pastor's wife. When she was, 9, 10? 10, she prayed for her future husband. Now, what's interesting is because we've done the math to know where I was when she was praying for me. And I was in the middle of the crisis of deciding who I was going to be, whether I was going to go away to academy or whether I was going to stay home and kind of follow the rest of my brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And right at that critical time, that's when I went away to academy and met Jesus, all the way to eventually become who I am today.
Wow.
So God has knit our hearts together long before we knew each other. Our dads worked together for like 30 years as electricians in the same plants. We didn't even have a clue until we met the families. But it's a calling, and this woman has stepped up to that calling. That's why I say she's 60. Maybe I underestimate probably 70% of my ministry.
Wow. Man, thank you both for this conversation. Thank you for the honesty, the transparency, the vulnerability as well. And know that I care about you both very much. And I really appreciate you. And I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful that both of you are in ministry in a world where there's so many pastors and things getting caught up in all these scandals and things like that. I am grateful for the friendship of you two and those who've forged a path before me that I can look to as examples and as encouragers as well on my own journey. To those of you that are listening and and you want to show appreciation to your pastor more, maybe you want to do something, call and let them know. Just do it before 9:00.
Yes, please.
We hope that this is something that kind of maybe opens some eyes. We hope that this is something that can help you understand the humanity in the pastor and the pastor's family. And to those of you who have been loving your pastor well, thank you for doing so.
Amen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing so. And to those of you who haven't, look, we're not trying to guilt trip you, but we do want to be honest with where we're at. And not talking about these things doesn't help us make them better. And this is where shame lives, is when we don't confront these things. So we do hope there's something maybe you resonate with, maybe you can find something to change and do differently. But we want to thank you for listening, for journeying with us. Thank you, Tim and Kim, for coming on and talking and sharing. And if you are interested in checking out any other Echo content, anything else that is produced by the Carolina Conference, you can head over to theprojectrefresh.org. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Echo. We hope you enjoyed it. To stay up to date with new episodes as we release them, and for more awesome content from Project Refresh, a ministry of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. And don't forget to like and leave a comment.
This episode of the Echo Podcast is sponsored by Southern Adventist University.